Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today's video is a try a chapter test in order to help me choose the next read book club series for Backlist Book Club, because I've just learned that my book club and my book picking ability is cursed. Instead of just blindly deciding on a book series to read for Backlist that I was intrigued about, I decided why not listen to the first chapter of every book that I was interested in, give them an intrigue rating, and then let my top tier patrons, the Leviathans, because their newest perk is that they get to vote on the Backlist series, vote on the ones that I was most intrigued about. So right after this video goes live, so when you're seeing this, my patrons will have 2 days of voting before the official series is picked. So if you are interested in deciding the fate of Backlist Book Club, you can check out the link down below. That my Patreon link is there. But otherwise, just enjoy my thoughts on all of these books. I mean, pretty much every series that I read in this video is a contender for later on for Backlist, and I'm excited to see what wins, because also now that I've read them all, the control is in your hands. Hello, I am doing this chapter tag test, and so I started today with The Daughter of No Worlds, and I was really excited for this one. I thought this was going to be a really big contender for Backlist, and I think it's still on the list, but I ended up giving it probably like a 7 out of 10 for intrigue. I think if I were to base a star rating off the first chapter, I would probably guess like a 3.5 for me out of 5 stars. Most of this comes down to just like the character. She makes a decision that I think is like, within the first chapter, I feel like she's not a character that I will adore. I see that she's going to be a nicer character, a sweeter character. I typically like a sassy underdog, and specifically in a fantasy romance because I like a lot of banter, and I just like wish she had fought a little bit more within this first chapter instead of just like submitting. So that's just for me, like, seeing that. Daughter of No World is a fantasy romance, if you don't know what it's about, by Carissa Broadbent. I recently read The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent and absolutely adored it. 5 stars. Favorite of the year. This is a bit, if we end up picking Daughter of No Worlds, it is like a different... Hi. If we end up picking Daughter of No Worlds, it is a bit of a different vibe for Backlist. We've typically done like epic fantasies and not something like a fantasy romance, and I'm okay with that. I actually would be really intrigued to go into the fantasy romance route with Backlist Book Club, as the idea for Backlist was just reading completed series. So yeah, like, I am definitely interested in this one. I know it is mentor to like mentee, like more like friends to lovers than like an enemies to lovers, which also just like isn't necessarily like my biggest vibe. But I do know from reading The Serpent and the Wings of Night that Carissa is really good at writing like grief and trauma, and I'd be excited to see that, specifically because our main character is sold into like slavery within this, and then has some kind of like sorcery magic and all that stuff. So I think that there could be potential for her to have a really, really amazing discussion on trauma again in this series, and that's something I look forward to in my books. But yeah, this is probably like a 7 out of 10 or a 3.5 star prediction. So we'll see if we can get better than that. Like, I'm still really intrigued and I plan on reading the series regardless, but that was my like first chapter thoughts. Okay, I have finished the first chapter of my second book, which is Ship of Smoke and Steel. We're in the kitchen. I just made myself an onion cake, and I'm heating up I'm making some rice so that I can make an onigiri too. That's my lunch for the day. I didn't really know a lot about this series going into it. I just knew it was Django Wexler, and after loving the Burning Blade and the Silver Eye trilogy, I loved his writing and I want to try more from it. This is his YA series, a fierce warrior, her deadly magic, and epic mission to steal a ghost ship. Within this first chapter, we just hang out with our character, and that I feel like is very typical for Django Wexler, to give us good character base first before he introduces the plot. And I think that I really enjoyed that character. I think my intrigue level is probably an 8 out of 10, and if I were to correlate that to a star rating, I'd be predicting a 4 star. So I think this one is definitely up there on the list for my patrons to vote for, probably. I think that this is a character that I could really like. This is a character who could remind me of someone who is, well, she is a character who is morally gray. She could remind me of some of my favorite characters, like Rain from the Poppy War, Nona from Book of the Ancestor, Eska from the War Eternals, and even like Nasha from A Touch of Light. She is, I just love a badass female character. Like someone who has the world against them and they are going to prove you wrong. Within this, we also see the start of the magic system and what the Wells of Sorcery actually mean, because that is the series name. And we see that she isn't really supposed to be existing. Like the magic she has isn't really supposed to exist, and I do love that type of story as well. We also see that she has like two sides to her. She at night is a criminal leader, and during the day she's just trying to make a living and send money to her sister. I think that there's a lot of intrigue in this for me, so I am excited to try this one. And every book that I read today is something that I want to get to, but I definitely could see this being a really big contender for Backlist. I enjoyed that first chapter quite a bit. I listened to the audiobook on Scribd for both this and the last one, and if you don't have Scribd, there is a 60-day free trial link in my description bar. It will give me 30 days free as well, so thank you to anyone who uses it. Obviously no pressure, but if you are looking to get Scribd, I definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorite audiobook platforms, as it's just like, it has a lot of things and it's just like easy to use. On to the next book, which I don't know what I'm reading next. Why hello! I just finished my first chapter, and for this one I decided to read Queen of Blood, which is the Queens of Renthia series by, is it Sarah Durst that this is by? Sarah Beth Durst. And this was a series that was not really on my radar, but when looking for things to read for Backlist, I really specifically want to read a female author. You won't see all female authors in this, but female fantasy authors, we don't see as many of them, and I had better luck. Most of my favorite series are from female authors. I mean, there's still male authors like The Burning Blade and Silver Eye and Book of Ancestor are both male authors, but things like the Poppy War trilogy, Daevabad, and Live Ships, and so many more. Like, I love a female written fantasy. I find them to have a really beautiful take. Like, Fireborn is also female, so I really would like to do another female author for Backlist, as we have done, out of the 4 series we've at least attempted, one of them has been female, and that has been our best overall experience with Backlist. It was the Winnowing Flame trilogy, and so I was trying to look for female authors, and I came across this one, and I do have some friends who have read it and really enjoyed it, so I thought, why not give it a try? The audiobook is on Scribd, so Mickey, it's not necessary to scream like this. At least he's consistent and will scream in every clip. So I really didn't know a lot about this, but I went in open-minded, and let me just tell you, I'm 10 out of 10 intrigued. Like, this is a 4.5, 5-star prediction now. I thought that this writing was very, very engaging. It was very strong. Right off the bat, I was connected to the characters. We have a moment between 2 siblings that feels very realistic to a younger sibling, older sibling dynamic, and that right off the bat just like caught my attention and dragged me in. And then we went into like the magic and some of like the lore of the world. So within this world we have spirits, and we have a queen that's supposed to keep the spirits from like attacking people, but something happens and this village goes under attack, and we find out that our main character has the affinity for spirits and she helped save her family, which then leads to end of the first chapter, guys. This isn't a spoiler, and it's in the synopsis. Cat! Can you not? End of the first chapter, it's in the synopsis, not a spoiler, that she has to go to the academy to train because people with this affinity are obviously like well wanted and needed to help keep the spirits at bay. I am so intrigued by this. If this does not get picked, I have a feeling that this will be read ASAP for me. Like, I am very excited to read this. This sounds incredible. I really, really adored that writing style. It sounds like a quick read from what I've seen on Scribd, and I'm just really obsessed with this. I do think that there might be a romance in this as well, but I'm not 100% certain. I mean, I do think that with female authors, a lot of the time there is a romance, but also, like, not always a given, and it's something that, like, I can avoid or I can really like in my fantasies, and I tend to like them when they're written by a woman and avoid them when they're written by a male. Just personal preference of my style that doesn't say anything about, like, how they are written. It's just, like, what I prefer. So there might be a romance between, like, the apprentice and this soldier guy. So this one is definitely 10 out of 10 intrigue, like, highest on my list. I'll be shocked if this does not make it to the top tier voting. I made myself a little onigiri for a snack. You're just seeing me eat food essentially in this little try a chapter test. I get hungry during the day, okay? And I picked up The Thief by Megan Whalen Turner. This one comes highly recommended by my friend Maria, so I figured I would try it. It is a YA series. I don't know much about it. I really went into all of these books quite blind actually, just to give them like a fair try. In this one, we're following our main character who is a thief, and I think one of supposedly like the best thief, can steal anything, get out of anywhere, and they are currently in prison, and they are the like biggest prisoner. They're treated harsher than the rest of the prisoners and all of that, but one day the king asks the thief to steal something for them, and I think we have to watch whether this is a possible task or not for our main characters. I keep eating my hair today. I believe this is going to be like an intrigue and adventure style. I would say my intrigue level is probably, I'd probably be like a 6.5 out of 10. I could probably predict a lower 3 stars for this. Although was really intrigued by like the prison setting, I just kind of was bored by the narrative that was happening. This is a 5-book long series, so I don't think that this one is making the cut into like my Patreon voting. I think the other series, the other 3 books I've already read so far, had a higher level of intrigue for me to want to read them at this moment in time. This is definitely a series that is on my TBR and that I want to read. I just don't think it's going to be the next Backlist pick, but it is something that really is intriguing me, and I did like the writing style, but it just wasn't as engaging as the 3 other books I've read. On to the next one. I read the first chapter of Theft of Swords, and again, this is another audiobook that is on Scribd if you are interested. This is book 1 in the Ryaria Revelations, and I know that there is a bigger series of books, like there's a whole world, an expansive world, like Age of Myth. This series is a prequel to this series, but this is the book that I have been told to start with within that world anyways. Intrigue. This had my intrigue a lot more at the start than the end of the chapter, but I still think my intrigue was quite high. We are following our main character who is a skilled thief and mercenary and goes for a job that ends up with them looking like they murdered someone, I think, and they have to work with a swordsman to survive long enough to unravel the first part of an ancient mystery that has toppled kings and destroyed empires. I don't really know. I feel like the first chapter of this didn't really give me a good idea of the plot, but it did just set up the narrator style. I think that I really enjoyed. There was I found just a little bit of like humor to the way this was written, and I just really enjoyed the narrative style of this first one. I think I'm gonna give it an 8. I think maybe because it is an adult book, I might put it ahead of the Wells of Sorcery series, but maybe, I think they're pretty tied, so I think it could go either way depending on my mood, which one would be higher, because sometimes I'm in the mood for a complex adult story, and then sometimes I'm in the mood for more of what Django Wexler does, which is like just like fun. I think this will be more intense than the Wells of Sorcery. I don't really have much to say about this one. I don't know, like my intrigue was there, but like it also was just like such a short, brief little chapter that I don't have full thoughts on it. I don't know. I don't know if this video is a good idea. I don't know if this is helping me figure things out, but yeah, here we go. Another one down. I ended up picking up The Emperor's Blade by Brian Stavley, and I am intrigued. Probably a 9.5 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. Like this could be a 5-star prediction, but probably more like a 4.5-star prediction. It's hard to tell because this first chapter is just a prologue and it's 3 pages long, so we don't get a lot. But 1, I really enjoyed the writing style. 2, the world is given like a forefront in this. We're learning about the rot, and we follow in the prologue, it's a character who is like ageless or immortal, talking about his daughter who is aging, and he calls it the rot. And then like he does like the most treacherous thing to her within the first page, and it just left me so intrigued by what this mystery is, and like the relationships between these people who age, like they're calling children, who are like now just like the normal person. So like human versus like the god people, and what made that difference, because in this chapter we see that the god says that like after this point in time people started to get the rot, which is just aging. And I just thought that was really, really intriguing. I really was sucked in by that. Like I could continue reading right now. So maybe Intrigue is a 10 out of 10. I think this is a big contender for me. It is a 4-book long series and the audiobook is on Scribd. So Scribd coming through for this video and all the books I want to read apparently. This was not on my list today. Like this book was not on my list of like Backlist book clubs books, and I just like looked at it on my shelf and said, you know what, let's give it a try. It's on Scribd and I'm really glad I did. This has me very much intrigued. I've actually changed since last time you saw me. I had to work today. I had my first wedding of the season tonight. It was just a short little elopement, about an hour, so it was like quick and easy. And it was a wonderful start to my wedding season because it's just like a little ease you in, you know, just you and the couple, and it was a lot of fun. I ended up like actually like witnessing the wedding and everything because I didn't want to have like any friends or family there, and I mean that's quite a normal thing actually in my industry for like us to like as photographers to be the witness, specifically with like the rise of elopements. But the last book that I ended up reading the first chapter of is Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. So I've already read this. This is one of my favorite series I've ever read, but I've been talking about doing a reread. And if you know me, you know I don't reread books. It is something I don't do. I have a really hard problem doing it, but I just thought like a reread and like annotating the shit out of this would be kind of fun. So I read the first chapter to see if it held up as something I was super intrigued into. It did. 10 out of 10 for intriguement. And I am putting Book of the Ancestor up for the vote if people want to read it. Now, the interesting thing about this is that all 4 of my current hosts, like including me, we've all read Red Sister. Now, I've read the entire series. Mel has read Grey Sister but hasn't read Holy Sister. But Kaylee and Bex have both read Red Sister, so it'll be like somewhat of a reread for everyone. Now, I have some people in mind to join Backlist in the next series for sure. I would like to expand it and have a couple more people join us, even if it's just for like one series. So I think for sure if we do Red Sister, I will have to find someone who's like never read this one before either. But all of my co-hosts have okayed reading Red Sister. They are okay rereading it and continuing on in the series or rereading whatever they've read. So this is a contender. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those were my final decisions. My patrons will be voting on Red Sister, The Emperor's Blade, Queen of the Blood, and A Ship of Smoke and Steel. And they will have those 4 options to choose from. And I'm excited to see what wins. Obviously, I have no idea. If you are wanting to participate in the decision making, it will be for my top tier patrons only, which is the Leviathans. Link is down below. Also, my Scribd link is also down below if you are interested in getting Scribd. All of these are available on Scribd. This was not sponsored or anything. It just somehow turned into me using Scribd, and I wanted to let you all know that I do have a 60-day free trial for you that gives me a 30-day. So yeah, that was all. But thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me some sort of camera emoji. And then if you want to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Let me know in the comments down below if there is a series you'd love Backlist to do or what one of these intrigues you the most. And then I'll see you guys in the next video. So have a remarkable day.